Hello and a very warm welcome to Facebook Live, or we're watching CNN Talk, and we're talking about Facebook, the irony here. So we are asking you what you think about the latest move by Facebook to ban several individuals for what they called for spreading dangerous ideology. Let's start with Samuel, because Samuel is our tech correspondent. He's been on the story, he's been following Facebook for a while. Was this been, I suspect, it's a long time coming, wasn't it?
For sure. I think it's been years coming, and I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find people who don't think that this is the right decision.
Yeah.
But as the tech correspondent, I'm trying to find the policy, so what's going to be happening moving forward, and I see little to no policy changes here. So right now I'm trying to figure this all out, and I don't think Facebook's really done a good job of explaining why the next person would or would not be banned.
So we want to know from you, where do you stand on this? Do you think this is the right thing to do? Does this raise many questions about free speech? If they don't go on this website, on this platform, or they'll go elsewhere? How do you feel about it? Send us your comments. Of course, we'll read them out throughout the show, as well as during Facebook. Liam, where do you stand on this?
Well, I think mainstream opinion will think this is a good idea. We'll come to the particular individuals that have been banned, but they do all have massive followings on Facebook and Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, which is another platform that they'll be banned from. And I think Facebook itself, it is a PR exercise, of course, but Facebook itself is increasingly under pressure. It has massive power. All 5 of the top most valuable companies in the world now are tech companies. They're often seen as monopolists. In the aftermath of the New Zealand terrorist attack, there's been huge opprobrium piled on Facebook, given that they carried videos of the atrocity, and there are reports that those videos still exist, not on the dark web, but on the web that's accessible. So I think Facebook does have an awful lot of issues it has to address. And I think some cynics will say it's only doing this in order to try and curry favour with mainstream opinion.
But why do you think they're cynics?
Well, I think mainstream opinion, and in which I include myself, would say, of course you should ban these people. But I agree with you, Samuel. There seems to be no actual method or science behind policy, why, and that feeds into the hands of those that say this is just random.
It does feel like
it's
a very
kangaroo court. You're only banning people who the liberal media bubble don't like.
They can't, in many ways, though, Rachel, act as jury and judge, and that's, I think, people will get to this in a bit.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. I mean, I think this is the right decision. It's also a long overdue decision. It's one that people have been talking to them about for some time. But I do agree with Samuel that unless there is a policy line, then their decision will be undermined, or attempts will be made to undermine it.
And Brian, we don't see a policy. In fact, what we saw yesterday, and Samuel will talk more about this when the show starts, is just a couple, comment, a paragraph talking about how dangerous, but there's different interpretations. We perhaps have all different interpretations what dangerous actually means.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're going to have to talk about, too, is how this intersects with this political moment. Because when you make a policy and you're trying to ban these people, Britain First has been banned from Facebook. Donald Trump has retweeted them. Alex Jones just got banned from Facebook. Donald Trump went on his show. So as much as we want to make this about Facebook, it's also about our political leaders who are mainstreaming this hate, and the fact that Facebook's in a tricky position where they definitely have to grapple with the fact that one of their main people on there, the President of the United States, is somebody who sometimes spreads hate speech.
Yeah, this political discourse is not just for Facebook, but banning them from WhatsApp, Samuel. But we can still see a lot of these individuals on the likes of YouTube.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think, of course, you can't blame Facebook for that because Facebook doesn't own YouTube, even though they own Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. But I think that just shows the lack of clarity that the industry as a whole has, and there has been a lack of clarity even within Facebook when Alex Jones was on Instagram but not Facebook.
Right, okay. So I think that the feeling is, and I think we'll probably see that when the comments start coming in, that this was the right thing to do. These people perhaps needed, that Facebook has a responsibility, but when you look at Silicon Valley, Samuel, is there a sense that others are following suit?
I think that they're all getting there little by little, but it's so piecemeal.
Yeah.
As companies, and I think today is the perfect example of that. That's because there's no policy, you're doing something, but you're not really communicating or communicating clearly.
Yeah.
And then they don't work in consortium, which maybe they should start doing because it would actually protect them as a business. And I know you and I are really interested in the business angles of all this.
And we will talk about this because, of course, this is a business, this is a top company, as you were saying. And we'll talk, okay, let's talk about this. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for watching CNN Talk. Today we are talking about Facebook, of course. It's a show that airs on Facebook too, and we are asking you what you think about Facebook's latest move. They have purged several high-profile celebrities from their platform, saying they are dangerous characters, they have dangerous ideologies. This is a brief outline of what we've had in the last 24 hours.
Facebook has designated some high-profile people dangerous and says that it is taking them off the platform.
Among those who Facebook banned from its platform are the right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, Louis Farrakhan, the leader of the Nation of Islam, who is notorious for using anti-Semitic language.
And Milo Yiannopoulos, fringe right-wing personality.
Facebook has been coming under increasing pressure to clean up its platform. Just last month, it banned representation and praise of white nationalism.
The company explained the move saying this: "We've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate regardless of the ideology."
The ban also extends to Instagram.
So we want to know what you think. Is Facebook right to ban these dangerous individuals? Send us your comments on facebook.com/CNNI. We'll read them out throughout the show. Really want to know where you stand on this, whether this is the right thing to do. What does this mean for other platforms too? What does it mean for likes of Twitter, YouTube, and the rest? I want to set some, first of all, some of your comments here. Atul, yes, they are right. David Williams, too little, much too late. Only if it can clearly define dangerous individuals. I'll read some of your comments throughout the show. Panel that you know very well. Rachel is here. We've got Liam as well as Brian and Samuel Burke, our tech correspondent. Before I go to you, Samuel, because you've been following the story throughout, I really wanted to get a sense, first show viewers what Facebook had to say relating to this move. This is the quote from Facebook. Is this the right one? No, this is not it. Let me get it. Hold on. If I can bring it. We have it here. Facebook, no, we don't have it here. Okay, let me read it out. We've always banned individuals or organizations that promote or engage in violence and hate, regardless of ideology. The process for evaluating potential violence is extensive. Samuel, when you saw this, I mean, this is truly a sweeping move. Long time coming, you think?
For sure, years coming. The issue, though, as you look at the statement on the screen there, look at that second word. We've always banned individuals. Well, no, you haven't always banned these individuals because they weren't banned yesterday, the day before, the month before, or the year before. So right away, even though I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find somebody who doesn't think that this is the right decision. Of course it is. But there's really no policy when you put out things saying we've always thought this or that these people are dangerous. Well, what defines dangerous? We need to see these policies so that Facebook can protect itself against people who say you're just banning most of these people because most of them are right-wing.
I mean, I suspect we don't even know what factors. That's the point. What weighed in their factor? What were they looking at? Exactly. What were the elements they were looking at?
And the people that they've taken off the platform haven't been notified of that, according to them. So as a journalist, I have to just look and see what the policy is, and I don't find it.
There's no policy.
There's the right decision, but no methodology.
Okay, I think the majority of us would probably agree this is the right thing to do, to try and curb and hate speech.
But there doesn't seem to be rhyme, reason or method, does there? And so, yes, I think if hate crimes have been committed, hate crimes, they're criminal acts. Yeah. So these people should be taken off platforms. But there doesn't seem to be a methodology behind this. And, these people have lots of followers and they won't agree with us. They'll say that this is censorship. And also, for a lot of these people, their Facebook followings, their Instagram and WhatsApp followings, of course, they're all owned by Facebook. They are of commercial value. I mean, there could be lawsuits here. Yeah. They've built their businesses and their brands around that. And so unless there is an actual methodology, some kind of scientific basis, or at least provable, consistent legal basis, then Facebook is going to have a major legal problem.
Let's look at some of the characters, some of these colourful individuals, I think I can call them. Alex Jones, if we can bring that up here. These are some of his conspiracy theories. His Parkland students were actors. Sandy Hook was a hoax. Government involved in 9/11. I mean, there's plenty more. He's a well-known character. Let's see if I've got someone else. He's also in charge of the InfoWars site. Him together with the other characters that we've seen, does raise the question that you were bringing up about also free speech. If it starts here, where do we go? Yeah.
I don't think this is really a problem of free speech, to be honest. It's a platform. It's a platform it's a company, right? I mean, like, the New York Times is not censoring people if it doesn't publish your op-ed that you send in with this garbage, right? I mean, it's not censorship, and this is garbage. We need to be really clear about this. These are false, vicious lies. And when you look at the Sandy Hook hoax, these parents had their little kids go to school and get shot, and then people harassed them for literally years, claiming that they were government employees who were making up a hoax. There are people who lost their kids who had to move multiple times because they were facing death threats from Alex Jones because of this. So I think if we can't agree that this person should be banned and he's dangerous, then we're really, barking up the wrong tree here. But beyond that, I also think it's important that we recognize that conspiracy theories and hatred and bigotry always were a problem in society. It spreads faster via Facebook. You used to have to subscribe to some tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorist in a basement somewhere to get a newsletter of this stuff.
Yeah, but
now 10 million people a week were listening to Alex Jones.
Well, let's look at Louis Farrakhan. This is some of the things he's been saying. He preaches anti-Semitic, anti-white, anti-Catholic, homophobic rhetoric. Says white people were created by an evil scientist. Is some of the examples of what we've seen from him. Where do you stand on this? Is it almost? That is a lot of hate. Is Facebook right to do this? And where do we go from here? What's next if they start banning these individuals?
So I think the problem that we're seeing now is it's not really Facebook's problem. They are falling into a political culture where the concept of free speech is being contested by people who claim that the right to say hateful things is a right. Yeah. And it isn't. It is not a right. You do not have the right to be insightful, to make hate speech, to make speech that could potentially lead to violence. You do not have that right. Free speech is curtailed in very specific ways that mean that people don't get to say things like that. And also this idea of, as Brian says, your free speech is not infringed by my decision not to give you a platform. Yeah. That's not a free speech violation. And the problem that we've had is that we've seen these people and their supporters make claims about free speech, make it appear as though this is about censorship. It is not about censorship. That is falling into their frame if we start to suggest that it is.
But of course, they can't be, which is what we were saying before, the jury and the judge, Facebook. And I think many people will criticise them whilst believing this is the right thing to do with these individuals, they will have questions about, first of all, their motives, their policies.
That's why they are the jury and the judge, by the way. But if they just made this clear for all of us, they could pad themselves from this criticism.
Yeah. We are obviously, to do this in the middle of a period when politics is just culture wars, is obviously going to be hotly contested from people who aren't from mainstream. And, increasingly people aren't in the mainstream. The mainstream is shrinking. So this will be contested. But there's something much, much bigger here from a business point of view. Facebook's worth $630 billion, and it's worth so much because it harvests our information from our searches, and then it sells that information to advertisers in a very specific sense. And also its business model is based on the fact that it is not a publisher, it's a platform. Okay, and that's a key distinction in terms of libel. But if Facebook, and this is a lot of the reason they've been reluctant to do so, if Facebook is actively making decisions about what to publish and what to not publish, it is then a publisher. Yes. And normal libel laws apply, as they apply to CNN, to the Daily Telegraph, where I write, to The Guardian, where Rachel writes. And this is the key metaphysical / legal issue that could have massive business implications.
And you're hitting on the business part of this, and I have to say cynically, because I see a lack of policy here.
You think it's a business decision?
I, of course, have to wonder, is this a business decision? Just this week, Mark Zuckerberg announced a huge privacy shift at the company.
Yeah.
They announced that they've set aside a huge amount of money in case of a big fine from the United States government. So all of that leads me to wonder, are they doing this because they need to reshape their image? Because, of course, they defended having these people on their platform not long ago.
Yeah.
So if they're trying to reshape privacy, if they're thinking this could be bad for business, well, then maybe that's why they got rid of all of these people on the same day. No
Well, let's look
coincidence.
at the Facebook shares, because you were talking about the scandals that Facebook has gone through. Of course, that happening around January of 2019. That's a lot to do with Cambridge Analytica that you and I both covered. This is, many people interpret as a business move, trying to revamp their image. What did Mark Zuckerberg say, in fact, about the responsibility of Facebook? Did he even touch on that?
Well, he talked about the fact that I think you might actually have a bite of it. He was talking about privacy, first of all, and he was making a joke about the fact that they don't have privacy. The joke didn't go down that well. I don't know if
Let's play. If we do have it, let's go for it. Yeah.
Now, look, I get that a lot of people aren't sure that we're serious about this. I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly. But I'm committed to doing this well.
So not many people found that very funny.
He's going to have to keep on waiting for that laugh.
Yeah, because people took it very... In fact, we were talking before the break about within friends and families, how many people following what, the privacy issues said, actually, I'm leaving Facebook, I'm quitting Facebook. It does no longer, I do no longer trust them, which makes the case perhaps that this could be political. It could be a business.
Yeah, but I think that this is also speaking to a larger societal issue, which is that there's an information revolution that's been happening for a long time, and there's no clear rules. And I think the government has a long overdue responsibility to set those rules. It's the Wild West for social media companies. And so I think, any company trying to navigate the first time in human history where any individual can amplify their voice to millions of people with the click of a button. Billions of people.
2.38 billion.
2.3 billion people with the click of a button. You have a situation that's unprecedented in regulation. And I think what you see after New Zealand attacks, all these different instances where Facebook ends up in the hot seat, they deserve a lot of the blame. I think they absolutely do. But the governments need to set the rules, not just haul these people before committees where people who don't understand Facebook ask them silly questions. They need to say, here's how we're going to regulate. These are the rules. This is what you need to do. And then Facebook needs to adapt.
But they have such power. These guys are like John Rockefeller at the end of the 19th century. I mean, the barons, the trust barons, you need proper antitrust legislation to break this up. And yet, the biggest 5 companies in the world by market value are tech companies. If you do regulate these guys seriously, the Dow Jones Industrial Average will collapse.
But
that's
also,
where we
it's
are.
worth pointing out that not all governments would agree that they should be regulated. We were looking at the government of Trump, the government of Bolsonaro, the government of Viktor Orban. Are they going to agree with our appraisal of what should happen to social media?
Some of those people on the right are the most critical of Facebook because they believe that left-wing Silicon Valley, which it is very left-wing, is against them. And that's why I think they have to have those policies very clear so that our friends on the right, perhaps, don't have suspicion of that when they ban people on the far right.
Well, let me give you some of the comments. David Williams, the internet's just too free, too lawless and too addictive. It's time to have alternative to Facebook. And Jeff says we only get a one-sided view if people like these are banned. He does have a point, though, in terms of getting one-sided view, not so much.
Well, there aren't two sides to hate speech. There's only hateful speech, which is not protected by free speech, or there isn't.
Hate speech and bigotry should be booted from platforms, says Aaron, but Facebook is far from consistent. Raphael says Facebook is right. Violence causes violence. Facebook should have rigid policies in place before banning people. And this is where how exactly, Facebook not answering any kind of calls in regards to policy, what actually they looked at in order to define these people besides calling them dangerous?
Forget rigid policy, just any policy.
Yeah.
Again, it just brings me back to the fact 7 people booted all in the same 24 hours that were allowed to be on the day before. It brings me back to, is this a political and business consideration, which they have every right to do, of course.
Yeah.
This is a business organization that makes a lot of its money off of being involved in the political world, but it's just about, for consistency's sake, for their own business, don't they need to say something that's much clearer than this?
Well, Paul Joseph Watson, who is one of the banned individuals, he works for InfoWars. He said, I don't think I've got it here, I can't see it here. Reports are true. I have been banned by Facebook, was given no reason. I broke none of their rules. In an authoritarian society controlled by a handful of Silicon Valley giants, all dissent must be purged.
He sent that message from his Twitter account, by the way.
And Twitter, has Twitter had a better policy when it comes to this, Samuel?
No, I don't think that you can point to either of them and any of these companies and say one has a better policy than the other. I started writing down who's on which platform. Milo Yiannopoulos was already banned from Twitter. Laura Loomer was already banned from Twitter and now Facebook. But the guy you just mentioned is still on Facebook. A lot of these people will go to YouTube to protest this today. So I don't think any of the companies really comes out as a shining star or even any shine whatsoever, because they've all been so sloppy and they've all done it in such a piecemeal way that there's no consistency. And this has really hurt, I think, more than anybody, YouTube's bottom line, because they have they have ads that have appeared right next to some of these videos. So maybe they've been the quickest to change, but because they have a monetary incentive that's much stronger than the other platforms.
We'll talk about the business angle when we come back, but I'm just going to leave you with these 2 comments for the meantime. Alex Jones is not dangerous, says Chris. The Nation of Islam and Muslim Brotherhood are dangerous, he says. Esosa sent in a comment saying, I recently posted a live video from a wedding. Instagram banned the video as dangerous. Back with you in just a minute. We'll continue, of course, this discussion on Facebook, so do stay with us and send us your thoughts. But it goes back to our first question in terms of, how do you define dangerous?
Just the volume of stuff they got. I mean, if you need a human eye to make the final judgment in these things, the volume is so enormous. I mean, there's
machine learning is going to do a lot of it, I think.
Indeed,
but not yet.
Yeah,
not quite there yet.
Yes and hate. Okay. Yes, but it's here, right? The word cloud. Oh, okay, pardon me. But the majority of people actually on Facebook, it's there, yes, dangerous. Okay, banned speech. Why is there emoji for laughing? Sucks, okay, that's not really anything else. Brotherhood, okay, so it's just some of the key words. But in general, actually looking at this, the majority of people support it because obviously they're trying to curb bigotry and
these are the worst, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's right. It's that even though they don't have a policy, most people will agree with these people. The question is when they start to get to the more contentious ones.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this because it then raises questions of what's next. If you start targeting these people, if there is no policy, if there's no policy set in place, there's no guidelines, then exactly what are we targeting next?
If there's no due legal process that can be seen as fair, then the people that are banned can claim.
Welcome back to CNN Talk. Thank you very much for staying with us. We're asking you, is Facebook right to ban dangerous individuals as it did in the last 24 hours? Do send us your comments on facebook.com/CNNI. We'll read them out to you. I first want to show you our word cloud. These are keywords that are gathered from the comments that you send in. If we have a look, dangerous there, right, hate as well in there, and some of the yes, obviously being one of the key words. So the majority of you believe this is the right thing to do, but obviously, as you heard from our panel, lots of questions about Facebook's policy. In fact, just other platforms as well, where we go from here. On the question of policy or the lack of policy, how does the likes of, I know Samuel can answer this, of Twitter, do they have set standards, set policies, set factors they look into stories like this, with people like this?
There are policies, and probably the one that people know best is the policies that President Trump violates. There's a policy that supersedes that in Twitter's world that says because it comes from such a powerful world leader that he can do things that the rest of us cannot. So there are policies out there, but again, big, consistent policies. This is this issue of personalities, individuals, where it becomes very apparent that there isn't a policy that can work for everybody.
Well, Alex Jones, in fact, he's slightly confused as to why he was banned. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
So this is next level. We knew it was going, like ban Winnie the Pooh and Chinese dictator's name, or ban in China people being able to send the Taiwanese flag via Apple devices. But now it's don't say Alex Jones or InfoWars unless it's negative. That is a prohibitive chilling on free speech by a giant telecom, basically, a communications network, saying what communications prohibitively you can engage in.
But, Rachel, we know that Facebook is trying to curb extremism, violence, hate, bigotry, whatever you want to call it, and many people will applaud them.
And lying.
Yeah.
And that is a really big deal, because the problem with Facebook and other social media is that it is easier to spread lies. It is easier to spread fake news. It travels further and much harder to correct it or to redress it or to promote facts. And, you know, we tend to associate that with things like, you know, the Trump presidency or Brexit and the EU referendum and Russian troll farms, but also even things like, you know, Angela Merkel. You know, she has much more fake news spread about her. You know, the fakiest news circulating around her was to do with immigration and her stance around that. So it spreads easier. Brazil, Bolsonaro, same thing. It spreads easier. This is why we have such a problem with conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, the oldest one, but also the anti-vaxxers. That went viral, literally, because of social media.
Go ahead.
So there's something about being factual that is important to preserve here as well.
Yeah, and InfoWars is a horrible offender on this count.
Right.
Some of the things that they have said, which are totally insane, right? They claim that former Secretary of State John Kerry split a hurricane in half with a laser beam from Antarctica. They also claimed, yes, actually John Kerry commented on the record and denied it and said it was actually from the North Pole. But there was, Obama was accused of being a literal demon who smells of sulfur, and he had to comment on this. So, you know, I think that lunacy, which all of us can agree is lunacy, is a problem. It's also a problem that Donald Trump went on that show, right? And we have to acknowledge that this is a broader societal problem. There's a demand for Alex Jones. I mean, it's really sad and unfortunate, but there is. There are millions of people who watch this garbage. And the president of the United States promotes it and said that Alex Jones has an amazing reputation. So I think it's a bit of introspection if you support Donald Trump, that maybe the people that you believe is a good president, if you do believe that, you know, he's supporting someone who's so vile and dangerous that he can't even be allowed on a platform.
You know, No, I was going to say, playing devil's advocate, why should Facebook? Does Facebook even have a responsibility to this? Why? They're a business at the end of the day. Why do they have to do this?
They are, but they're a publisher, and they're trying to deny that they're a publisher.
Well, this act is publishing.
Because if they are a publisher, then the normal libel laws apply as they apply to CNN and the newspapers that we all write for. But, you know, the likes of Alex Jones, you know, Facebook is massively powerful, 80% of all social media traffic, but it isn't the internet. Can you ban people from the internet? If you've got electricity, you can get the internet, and they will set up their own platforms, and they will be even more of a silo than they already are. And that's the danger. We'll get even more fragmentation. And I do think a real watershed moment, tragic as it was New Zealand, where you had Facebook live streaming these terrible acts of atrocity.
And it's still up there.
And there was reluctance, and there is reluctance to take those down, because then they will be publishers. And you get people like, you know, the Privacy Commissioner of New Zealand, John Edwards, perhaps speaking in shock, as his whole nation was. And he said, and I am saying this on CNN, which is being broadcast by Facebook, we should tip our hat to that. Facebook cannot be trusted, said John Edwards, the New Zealand Privacy Commissioner. They are morally bankrupt, pathological liars who refuse to accept any responsibility for any content or harm. Mark Zuckerberg is an extremely smart, politically astute guy. You have to react to that.
And he's a great businessman, so I'll just go back and
I was
say,
going to go back to business.
if I were a business advisor, I would tell them, if for no other reason, if we weren't talking about morality and ethics, I would say, this is in your interest to get this off your platform if you want to keep on making money and you want your stock price to go up to those pre-Cambridge analytic levels. But on a more serious moral and ethical note, every time I cover one of these terrible attacks that has spread, like New Zealand, on social media, I go to the experts, people like you who study this, Brian, and they tell me the number one reason they believe that we see the spikes in the types of hate crimes and hate speech that we do is because social media. And there is a scholar from New York who said that it's not just Facebook's obligation to do this as a business. This is their ethical obligation. Their hate is taking a whole new level. I'm someone who became a tech reporter because I love tech and I saw all the great things in tech. And those of us who are on the front lines have now seen the worst of tech, and we're the people who are the most fearful because of exactly these types of people spreading these types of messages.
Get your thoughts on this comment. Will is saying censorship is a slippery slope. People can decide what to subject themselves to without corporations and government interference.
Well, I can't. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry.
I just say I can't stress enough how it's not censorship. There are laws around hate speech, but I do think that there is a separate issue, slightly separate, which is to do with if people are spreading conspiracy theories and fake news, there's also people being susceptible to them that we have to address. What is it that has broken down trust in objective truth to the extent that these crank conspiracies get in, to the extent that Trump lies and it's okay? There's something else that is broken besides social media, and if we focus only on social media, we might miss that.
And with 2020 coming up, that's something that we'll be talking about, no doubt, again, Brian.
Absolutely. I mean, the Facebook ad model is going to be a big thing for the campaign in 2020, and I think it's really a big, as you talked about, Sam, where there's this sort of pushback against social media in general. I think there's a very divisive question, which is the world better off with it? Right? I mean, we can't put the genie back in the bottle, but now people are wondering, are we actually better off in this world? And originally it was supposed to topple authoritarian governments by connecting people and all these things. And in fact, it's spreading a lot of hatred very, very quickly, creating a lot of very false impressions of reality and causing people to act in the real world in dangerous ways. And I think that has to be weighed against the value we get of it with connecting with our family and friends and sharing cat videos.
I'm going to leave you with some comments here. Elena, we lived without Facebook before, we can do it again. Who needs it, she asks. Those dangerous individuals spread social media, poison our moral veins. And I've got one more. Yes, preserve facts, preserve the truth. And that does it for us. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.